Welcome back to Triumph Weekly. I am Karie Johnson, and I have an incredible guest with us today, Dr. Neel Bulchandani. Bulchandani, I think I might have mispronounced it again, but yes, oh my gosh. Dr. Neel is a wealth of information, inspiration, and we are just so grateful to have him as an expert on Life Network and with us here today so our whole entire community can get to know Dr. Neel. So Dr. Neel, I'm going to give a little bit of a sneak peek background on what he does. And I'm really excited because for myself, I've suffered with TMJ, a lot of stress issues. I have a mouth guard that I wear at night. I get a lot of headaches and neck pain. I do go to a chiropractor, and I'm very excited to kind of dive in with Dr. Neel a little bit and learn more just about breath work and posture and healing. He's incredible. So let me just introduce you to him because he is a holistic chiropractor, body worker, teacher, and thought leader in the areas of airway and feeding issues as well. He has created the Airway Map, a new way of understanding the body's maladaptive patterns from tongue ties, narrow palates, and jaw issues. He specializes in helping babies, children, and adults heal. He has developed protocols for helping optimize outcomes with tongue tie, palate, and jaw surgeries. He guides patients and practitioners virtually, thank goodness, because that's probably what I'm going to need in his work. And then he also sees his patients locally in California, mainly Santa Barbara and Los Angeles area. He's currently bringing his training to multiple states, though, this year. So be on the lookout. We're going to mention some of those trainings coming up on a Floor of the Mouth tour. So check out his site for updates on when he is in your area. Dr. Neel, welcome. Great to have you.
It's great to be here, Karie. Thanks so much for having me. It's a privilege to be sitting with you and chatting, and I'm just really happy to be, first of all, part of the Go Life team, and then just collaborating with you and all the amazing people that you all have on this team is pretty extraordinary.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Neel. The feeling is mutual. We are extremely grateful to learn from you and just have you part of the team. And I'm just really curious. So you've kind of niched down in your specialty. So what kind of led you to specialize in airway health and posture?
Yeah, I mean, the rabbit hole is deep and it still goes, but where it kind of 17 years ago became a chiropractor, and then studied with the best, and then I graduated, practiced, started going down these pathways of trusting intuition more and finding clues and working on fascia and releasing organs and just shifting people's soft tissues and their alignment, and also digging beneath the surface as to what undergirds and what was causing those patterns like
Right.
stress or trauma. And then but it was like really my daughter, who is almost 9, when she was born, Serenity is her name.
Oh,
When
beautiful name.
she was born with a tongue tie, lip tie, cheek ties, actually. So they often come in pairs or quads. Like usually if you have one tie, you have another. You might even have 4. Rarely will somebody have all 7 frena that are tied. But she born, and our midwife said, "Your daughter has a tongue tie." And we're like, okay, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
And I could explain that more later. But, she was born with tissue under the tongue that was too tight. It meant that, right away we didn't notice it, but then we started to notice the issues. Breastfeeding for her was really challenging for her and my wife. And it was painful for my wife because the tongue couldn't move to get milk out. And so then it caused not only that pain for my wife, but also then just the lack of being able to have a proper latch and a seal meant air coming in, and her tummy was filled with gas and
Oh,
all kinds of things. So
yeah.
that's where it started, was like seeing her deal with that, doing body work, and there's a lot more to that, but that's what taught me about this issue. And then also through working on her, what worked, what didn't work. And then I
Wow.
started to look at all the babies, all the kids, and all the adults that I saw, and just started to investigate this area and work on ways to help with these issues more.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love it when, it's a personal story and drove you to get a little bit deeper into this work, and you now helping, thousands of people. And you've developed a whole protocol now called the floor of the mouth. Can you explain that a little bit more, the airway map, and just why this is important? Because it is, like you said, you were looking at all of your other patients too, not just the babies and the kids, but just, how our everyday life is affecting it. It's just, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah. Maybe a quick explanation by demonstration is this move that I'll do is called lingual palatal suction, tongue to the roof of the mouth, which we need for nasal breathing and many more things. And if you do that, where your tongue goes to the roof and you create that seal, make that sound, but then you keep it up there and you get that good stretch, you'll see
Yes.
that line. That's the frenulum that I have that is tied. But I've created a lot more mobility in the floor of my mouth. So if you look to the left and the right of that frenum, that band of tissue, that's the floor of the mouth.
Uh-huh.
Beyond the teeth, that's a bunch of muscles and fascia. And when somebody has a significant tongue tie and or those floor of mouth muscles are so rigid and they haven't been released, muscles haven't been loosened, you'll see that tissue come all the way up. So it's like you're not even seeing any space. You're not even seeing any shadow because all you're
Interesting.
seeing is like tissue. So that floor is a place that I've specialized in for almost the last 9 years. I've
Oh my gosh.
made it the terrain that is so pivotal for like how I investigate. And I think somebody once told me this, well, let's just say that like there's a lot of us that are working in the mouth now. I've trained so many people and they've already learned it. I'm riding on the shoulders of giants who've done some of this work, but what I've done is not just work in the mouth, but is what's the floor of the mouth? How can I check it? But how can I use it as a diagnostic for how the entire body, and I would say being, taking into consideration not only like tension in the body and how that can add to tension in the floor of the mouth, but also EMF. How can you identify EMF sources around people? How can I identify parasites? So many things can
Really?
cause tension in the floor of the mouth. And I've developed a way to identify and also address that so that people can not only have looser mouths, but more than that, like the mouth, when it's loose, when you regulate tension there, it can free up 70 plus areas in the body that I've identified. So it's how to navigate that. That's what I'm teaching. And that's what I'm excited to bring to the road.
I'm excited. Oh my goodness. And I know a lot of people are talking about, gut health and how that's just connected to everything, but it really does also sound like this is a huge connection to the whole body and brain and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. So it's almost very similar to what people are on the cusp of right now with just learning about gut health. So I'm just really curious because I have had horrible parasites in the past before too. And like I had mentioned, my own jaw, and I've had to wear mouth guards and just stress. And um yeah, I'm fascinated. Like this is I could even just trying that opening, I can just feel that tension right there. And it
Yeah.
almost felt like I have a lot of stress.
Well, let me know when we have, like we'll do like a cool activation. That was like showing the problem, but then we'll do a little activation of relieving some tension. So I'm not leaving you with more tension, but we're gonna leave you with less. So I'll do a great like floor of mouth meditation, and something called tongue mapping that's really cool that I've created, just to help bring relief to these areas. So also whoever's tuning in, it's like, the there's simple keys that at least gets you, through to some relief, and then but I have to give a shout out to Biohacker Babes, Sumbateros, Gene, I gotta give a shout out
Yes.
to some of these, like Gene, I think we call him, I've heard him named like he's like the OG, functional airway. He had a myofunctional therapist working with him back in the day. And there's also a Nico Loud, and there's some amazing people on this team that are like this is their field too. And I feel like in the last, well, it's, 9 years, I've kind of come in and I've said, I think there's so much out here, so many keys. But what am I finding that's missing, and how can I help? Because,
Mhm.
like we have these issues, but then, with me, it started with my daughter. And so I see like when a mom is, I know you have a similar heart for helping,
Yeah.
mom's journey through the pregnancy journey. And postpartum, and they're breastfeeding, and not only for the mom is that, a challenge, but what about the
Yeah.
baby? And so
Oh gosh. Yeah.
so how can I make it easier for these families to help? And so I think I've, as I've followed Ben's work over the years, and now we've known each other for a little time here, that as I've been able to do body work on him and show that there are like amazing biohacks to freeing tension in the body. And one of the biggest ways it shows up is with a baby who can't feed, and you can find seconds or minutes of things that can help move the dial to get them feeding more easily, as
Wow.
well as like kids who are dealing with a lot of these issues with nervous system regulation that could be coming from the floor of the mouth, though there's many other things. And adults, we have so many of us have these TMJ issues. And, one guy, this is an example, he was 75-year-old guy, came in and he was getting ready for his tongue tie surgery. And he was referred in to me, like many are now, by the dentist to say, what can you do to prepare him? And because I don't even know what to look for. And I said, great, I do. And for him, the biggest issue was his temporal bone was so jammed, and when he ate, it hurt so much, and that's what led him down this process, and he
Wow.
didn't even know he had a tongue tie. The dentist told him properly, was getting him prepared. Well, when I saw him, his body was so rigid that I'm so glad he didn't go get that tongue tie released right away, because it would have failed. And that's what I see
Wow.
is when they don't have the floor of mouth loosened in many areas in the body that are associated,
Hmm.
it can just lead to failed procedures. And also just like he didn't even know what the answer was, but he was willing to take the journey. So not only did we free up tension in the floor of his mouth, and I'll mention a couple things here to wrap up with this like example,
This
and then
is
his
good.
right kidney was out of alignment. But here's the trick: he didn't have a right kidney because it was removed surgically due to cancer. But guess
Oh,
what? Scar tissue, adhesions were right there, and the
yeah.
scar tissue acted like a phantom fascial puller to
Yeah.
pull into the floor of the mouth. And so then once I addressed
Whoa.
the scar tissue, the floor of his mouth dropped like right away in tension.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
I adjusted several other areas that were pivotal to do that, but it wasn't working. And this is where I come in. I'm like, Neil, why is this not working? So many people have never had their kidneys adjusted, not alone phantom kidneys, but and with
Right.
like, 9 out of 10 people that have these issues, that's going to work. Well, he had hearing aids and they had some EMF, you know,
The
signals they
frequency
were
coming through.
producing. So don't
Yes.
worry, everybody. I'm not going to tell him you can't wear your hearing aids, but we had to take his hearing aids out. Instantly, the floor of his mouth got looser and his tongue was moving more easily.
Mm.
So, well, the answer isn't you can't wear
Not
your
where the
hearing aids.
hearing
So
aids.
what I did is I worked on his body with the hearing aids out, shifted the floor of his mouth, adjusted his scar tissue, freed up the floor of his mouth so the pterygoid muscles loosened, which is so big with TMJ. So then his temporal bone could finally be adjusted into place.
Wow.
But then he put the hearing aids back in and went right back in. So
Oh
we
no.
titrated him, took him out, put him back in, took him out over
Okay.
several sessions until his body held the alignment with the hearing aids in. And so that's called titration, that I've created this way of titrating two stressors, because I know Ben and you all talk about this too, but it's like we're never going to get away from all the stresses in the world, and we don't
I
need
know.
to. Our bodies are made amazingly. We're strong. So
True.
I look at how can I find workarounds to help people titrate their bodies to stress so that they remain not only able to handle the stress, but their tissues remain supple and elastic. So in his case,
Amazing.
his TMJ issue almost 100% disappeared before he even got his tongue tie surgery.
Amazing. Yes, like, I mean, because we can't just stay wrapped in a bubble all the time. That's not, what we're built for,
Exactly.
right? Like
Yeah.
the ship is made to be to going out into the sea. It's like not safe, just in the harbor. So that's incredible. Yeah, my father wears hearing aids too, and
Uh,
he has anxiety and all those type of things. So I'm wondering if any of that is affected too. Was just like mental, anxiety, depression type of things. If that can all be associated as well. It's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, the temporal bones, which is where those hearing aids sit, against those bones, not only can like affect your equilibrium balance. Sometimes people have ringing in the ears, but let's say those aren't the issue with your dad. It's like they can tighten the temporal bones, which can then travel into other cranial bones. The sphenoid being one of them. It's this winged bone, and the winged bone of the sphenoid is this really pivotal place in our body where it controls pituitary function. And
Yes.
pituitary function is stress and
Yes.
resilience. And so, I mean, like, I just want to go to your dad right now and release his sphenoid and see if
I know.
that helps. So, let's plan for that. But yeah.
Yes.
So there's some simple things that like people can say. Like this is why I love talking about the floor of the mouth, is because I've had people come in and like I respect. There's so many people that have reached out and they're amazing cranial workers, cranial osteopath, craniosacral therapist, and
Mhm.
like, all these experts and chiropractors, fellow chiropractors, osteopaths. I love y'all. But and when the floor of the mouth is released fully by following these pathways of organs and EMF and whatever, when that releases fully, it sets this upstream, downstream release of tension in the body. And often the temporal bones, the sphenoid, and you name a bunch of other craniofacial bones, they just melts and they move more supplely. And you don't even have to be an expert at shifting all the bones. It helps to, because sometimes they need additional work. But
True.
I just found like sometimes the most um, significant area that's not being addressed is this like very, very, interesting terrain of the floor of the mouth. And there's so many different areas that relate to different things. And that's where I get into the weeds of it on my like floor of the mouth tour and on my online
Yeah.
course. But there's definitely like relief that I just love it when people can have relief. And it doesn't have to be extremely long and complicated all the time. It's like sometimes it's just simple things that we can do to bring that relief.
Okay. Wow. I'm just fascinated. This is so good, Dr. Neil. And thank you
Mhm.
just for bringing this to the world. And I think it is more just about awareness. Like you said, it's, a lot of times we just don't even know. So you have the course, right? And then, so somebody virtually like myself or my dad, what would be our best path?
Yeah, well, you're kinda different because you're like a bridge between, like, you're a practitioner, you're
Yeah.
a health practitioner, meaning you know the body. So, like, for example, somebody like you might take my Floor of the Mouth online course, which is a 9 module, or s sorry, 6 module, 90 to minute each, and it's like nitty-gritty, how to understand the floor of the mouth from a paradigm that I'm teaching, how to
Okay.
know how to do some techniques. And then, the cool thing is with that, anybody who gets that gets tongue press included.
Oh,
I'll
cool.
explain tongue press. Tongue press is like, you could be a practitioner, but let's just say you're a parent or somebody with TMJ or tongue tie or any narrow arches, or you have any tightness in the body that won't go away. Mostly, if you have a tongue, you need tongue press. So tongue press is for anybody with a tongue to learn techniques, and it is a course, and it's like
Okay.
five, I think, videos and 4 audios and a PDF, but there's an 8.5-minute daily routine on there that shows you how to do tongue and floor of the mouth and tongue mapping and some of the things that I'm gonna demo in the
Oh,
floor of the
cool.
mouth meditation that's really thorough. So, like, for your dad, he would get tongue press, um,
Yeah.
and that would be a great way to engage in some of what I do from a distance.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I do one-to-one consults where we wanna, like, I'll evaluate you specifically and I'll look, evaluate, ascertain, and then I'll show you how to release areas on your body, or if you're a parent, like how to do this with your kids or your baby.
Okay.
And in that way, we can see change happen in the moment, and we can
Amazing.
see change, so we know, that's what I'm going to recommend to you then, is more of that. Or if in the first like half of the consult we're doing things and it's not working, we'll shift gears. And so that's way more
Okay.
customized, but those are like great ways to engage if, you're out there and you can't come to me in person in Santa
Yeah.
Barbara, Los Angeles. Like quarterly I go up to San Francisco, but it's not as
Okay.
often. And
Right.
then some people are like, they love LA, so they're flying in. So I have somebody flying in
Yes.
from New York next month, and
Oh, good.
somebody coming in from Denver, um, that's coming in. And I'll just mention then, like, to round out like the main things, my Floor of the Mouth tour is like for practitioners who want to come learn in
Okay.
person. And that's like, you want to learn what I do, you want to learn how to do it, and you could be anybody in the health field. You could be a dentist, you could be an ENT, you could be
Right.
a myofunctional therapist, lactation consultant, physical trainer, physical
Any of it.
personal trainer, yeah, anybody, body worker.
Wow.
And I was in Denver and I did a training out there. Was it last week? And I did a training out there for people. I had amazing people come and learn.
Wow.
And then LA, I'll be, going into LA in a couple days to teach on Saturday. There's other ones throughout the year in LA, but
Okay.
that's like home close enough to
Right.
where I can spread it out.
Easy. Mhm.
Then, yeah, I'll be going to Boise, Idaho to do a training. I'll be
That's where I
doing.
moved.
You're in
I'm in
Boise?
Boise. Yeah, I used to be in Arizona, and we moved to Boise in August.
No
I'm
way.
gonna
Well,
I'm gonna
happy
when are you
move.
when are you coming?
We're working on potentially August, maybe September is when I'm
Okay.
coming.
Well, let's be in touch, and then
Let's be in touch. Yeah.
yes, and I know, chiropractors and massage therapists, and I can start spreading the word and getting these practitioners to attend because
Yeah.
that's what I love what you're doing also is, just your education for the other professionals so they can, learn how to do this technique because it seems like such a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm doing, when I'm there in Boise, I'll be consulting a dentist office and training up his whole staff. So I'm doing a separate training just for his staff because he's
Amazing.
totally loving airway right now, got into it, and I'm mentoring like something like that. So oh man, we got to talk about Boise because I'm excited to have somebody who's, going to facilitate the event, but we're just
Yes.
we're gonna start spreading the word. So Boise's coming, and then Chicago is going to be coming up this year, as well as Sarasota, Florida, as well as
Wow.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
We're talking about throwing up. Where you used to live, Phoenix to the map because there's a lot of people out there who want to get trained. And then there's talk of I might go to Dubai this year as well to do some
Wow.
training, which would be really amazing because I just want to, you know, spread it to the world and especially
Yes.
where people need it the most, which is everywhere, but especially in Dubai, there's a lot of stress there. But yeah, I'm excited for getting this into the hands of more people because I really feel that when you've been given something and it, like these downloads that I've received are not my own intellect creating this, it's intuition. And
Yes.
then my daughter's serenity, every
Yes.
patient, I really feel like God gave me these downloads
Yes. Amen.
so that I could share this because there's no way that I can ever see enough people. And also, not to inflate myself, I'm not going to be the best person for everybody. My protocol is like a it's like Neo from the Matrix, right? When you
I
when
love
you
it.
had Neo, he sat in that chair and they're like kung fu and he got trained in kung fu, right? He was this like vessel. I feel like everybody has this tremendous capacity to do so many things in life. My protocol is like a module where if everybody's Neo and they sit in that chair and they get the download of the floor to the mouth, it'll make anything they do as a practitioner work even
That much
more.
better.
And so
Yeah.
I feel like I met so many people that I respect greatly. And I'm like, wow, I've learned from some of these people. And they say, yeah, and I'm going to use that protocol. And it's just going to, and it has, it's like
Hmm.
really helped them. So that's my main mode and
Wow.
goal is like get this out there and also just make it so that it's more accessible for people when they can't find anybody that, it's not just the finding
Yes.
people, right? So I love it that you all with Go Life are making some of these resources democratized and getting this out to people. Cause like a lot of people I have people who have like 6, 7 kids, right? And you can't get every single therapy
No.
and it's a
It's
lot. It's a
impossible.
lot.
Yeah.
So how can I make this like accessible and teachable and also one of my favorite things to do is like when I'm with someone and it's, a parent with kids. I just had this trio, mom, dad, baby come in to when I was in LA a couple days ago and I was working on this little baby who's a month old and um releasing fascia and finding there were just some areas in the body that weren't letting go. And once we finally did, that tongue started to get even looser and it's not correcting the tongue tie, but it is making it a lot easier for that tongue to move. And that meant
Wow.
we also found that the secret to that baby's gag reflex becoming less
Yeah.
sensitive, which is something I love to find is
Gosh.
how can we remove that hypersensitivity so the nervous system's resting so the baby is not fight or flighting and then the mom's not freaking out because you just all you want is not only to get this precious baby the milk they need,
Yeah.
but you just want it to be easy. And of course, never selfishly, the mom needs to not have to stress out
I
and
know.
work so hard to do something that's, was intended to be so simple.
Exactly.
So I love
Wow.
teaching parents, how can you do what I do? I do a 2 to 5 minute video at the end of our visits. And if I can decode it, I'll say, do this once or twice or 3 times a day for this long. And let's see what happens because I can't come to you enough. You can't come to me enough.
Right.
You can make change 1 or 2 times a day or so, and you can really shift this quickly. So that's one of my favorite things to do is put it in the hands of the people.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Neil, you are such a blessing. You're such a gift to so many. And thank you so much just for just your heart. Like you have such an
Mhm.
incredible heart for people. And that's, oh gosh, I'm just excited to share you from the rooftops and, have our whole entire community get to know you more. And because I think this is such just wisdom that we could learn. Like, I'm excited to start incorporating this into my everyday life. So I'm wondering, I need to take your course. I need
Sure.
to also fly out to LA to come see you too, would be awesome. But I'm excited you're gonna come to Boise. So we're
Okay,
gonna have
yeah.
to collaborate and what we're gonna do,
Yeah,
maybe some kind of life network collaboration here. And
that'd be awesome.
Ben and Caleb are in Idaho as well. So maybe they can drive down because they're in northern Idaho. So maybe they can
Yeah.
come down too. So that'd be something we can talk about. But okay, so what about would you if I am gonna add some type of routine to my daily, like, habit stack so it's not, overwhelming just to help loosen because I do get TMJ, and I know you said you would walk us through some type of exercise. Is that something that you'd be willing to share, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'll do the version that you don't need to wash your hands or wear gloves because, sometimes it's like you work in your mouth. It's going to be amazing. Like, there's just some people who are like, I don't know, am I going to do the right thing? Am I going to push too hard? So, kind of, we'll show this in the course. There's like so much, but I'll give you a combination of floor of mouth meditation and tongue mapping. So, first of all, everybody knows where your tongue is, right? You have the tip of the tongue and let's just see, first of all, can you put the tip of your tongue on the floor of your mouth? And can you run it across, feel the fibers, feel the smoothness of the muscle from the front to back, right? And some of you might not be able to get back too far because your tongue is tied. Push against the inside of your teeth. Trace the rim of the mandible, the gum line on the inside of your teeth, right? Not this way, but on the inside. And that right there is floor mapping. Now elevate your tongue to the roof of your mouth, the hard palate. Make those sounds, but use the tip of your tongue to explore all of the palate. The front is called the maxilla, the back is called the palatine bones, but just it's the hard palate. So feel that with your tongue and trace it around the perimeter, under behind the teeth and the gum line. And for those of you that can, kind of go back and forth until you get further back. And if you can, some of you feel the soft palate, the muscle with your tongue. And you're curling your tongue tip back. And if some of you can get even further, try to go up. Almost nobody's going to be able to do this, but try to imagine that your tongue is getting to the back of your nose, right? And just roll it all the way up. That's tongue mapping. First of all, some people are going to find relief now, but that's sort of to give you an idea of the map, the floor and the roof. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit meditative so that we scale it back because some people need nervous system regulation before they do this exercise more. So I'm going to have you can keep your eyes open for people out there. If you want to close your eyes, do that. But just start by just putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth, just like we did, and go into lingual palatal suction to where you're getting that tongue to stretch. Feel where it's stretching, right? Just take note of where it's stretching. But now I want you to close your mouth, keep your tongue on the roof so that it's easy, right? And then just take a deep breath in through your nose if you can, and out through your nose if you can. If you need to breathe through your mouth at all, please do. Now, pay attention to your tongue on the roof, and then now direct your attention down to your feet. Some of you will not have thought about your feet for a while. Think about your feet. Feel them touch the ground. Even if they're in socks or shoes, wiggle your toes, feel your feet touch the ground, or if some of you have your feet on chairs, or if you're in the car, or whatever you're doing, feel your feet, whichever foot you can feel it where it touches. Note that. What part of your feet are touching the ground and what part of your feet are not? Are your heels touching fully? Is the ball of your feet on the right touching? Do you feel your left medial arch a little too high? Just kind of note some things. Now, direct your attention back up to the roof of your mouth. And if your tongue has fallen off the roof, go ahead and elevate it back there. Good. Now I want you to drop your tongue to the floor of your mouth with the tip of your tongue mapping it again. Now this time, push a little harder if you can, massage the floor of your mouth with the tip of your tongue. Whatever parts you can. And you're pushing down to the floor with your tip of your tongue. Good. Now, I want you to bring your tongue back to the roof of your mouth. Direct your attention down to your feet. And as we kind of come to an end here, I want you to be aware of where your feet are touching the ground. Be aware of where they're not, but mostly be thankful for where they are touching the ground. And also, as you direct your attention back up to your tongue and the roof of your mouth, notice where your tongue isn't touching the roof, but mostly be thankful for where it is. And take a deep breath in through your nose. And out. Good. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's
I
a
feel so
little
much
bit.
better.
Good.
That feels great.
Me too. Every time I do it, I'm like, yes, I need to do that more because it can change. There's a lot of ways to do that differently. Every time I do it, it's a little differently, but mostly because we're engaging with like what feels good, what's nourishing,
Right.
what's relaxing. And yeah, we want to pick up what we're not accomplishing, but yeah, tell me, yeah, so is there anywhere in your body you felt like, other than just relaxed, is there anywhere you felt change, sensation, anything like that?
I felt, yeah, just overall, just a sense of relaxation. Like it
Yeah,
really, just like my whole body was loosening, which I really, really enjoyed and I needed apparently. So I'm wondering, is this something that I should do every day? And if possible, because I do try to do a sauna every day in the morning. So maybe I could do that something, habit stacking and getting that done in the sauna. Is that something that I could do?
absolutely. This is something that if you just take that, even though that was like a snippet of the 8.5 minute daily routine, but maybe we spend a little more time on this meditation part than in the routine. There's other things you can do, but yes, do that. If you did that once a day, and you could put it in there, like often I'll do it right before the sauna or right before
Mm,
anything like that, and then right after or during, right? Because you can
interesting.
see how the sauna helps you with some of these
Yes.
movements. And then, some people are like, I feel so relaxed. Can I do this at the end of the day? I'm like, well, yeah. If you do this before you sleep, you enter into sleep not just more relaxed, but often looser. And you
Mm,
have this in also the tongue is a lymph organ. So this is a great way to actually release lymph when it's bound up.
interesting.
So
Wow.
you can do that as a way to enter into your sleep. And actually, for some of you out there, if you're struggling in like sauna, cold plunge, these things are amazing. Lymphatic massage and
Yeah.
vibe plate, and
Hmm.
all these these things we could mention, which are amazing for lymph release.
Right.
If your tongue is bound up and the floor of your mouth is bound up, one of the most important areas of lymph regulation is going to get freer with this, and it's going to make all these other modalities work way more easily and way more successfully.
That is so incredible, and it seems like such a simple, like, no-brainer type of thing, but just, like, we completely neglect that area, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah.
never think about that, and it's something I'm actually gonna add it in the evening. I think that will be better for me when I go to bed, to be honest, because sometimes it's just hard to quiet and turn off my mind, and I do also struggle with gut issues, and I'm trying to do all the things with lymph, and, I have my rebounder and dry brushing and all of those things,
Yeah.
and, maybe it's just still so locked up in my mouth, so I'm gonna add that tonight, Dr. Neil.
Do it, yeah, and I want again, like, all those, the Sambateros and Gene and Nico
Mhm.
Loud, and we can give a shout out to all the myofunctional therapists out there doing
Yes.
amazing things because they are, like, the liaisons of airway-centered care, and I'll collaborate with them whenever we're, like, having patients that need to get relief. They're like physical therapists of the mouth, and so,
Yes.
first, I, like, give them all, like, a huge amount of credit. And you know what? Lactation consultants, IBCLCs, they're like a version of that for babies
So
because,
true.
babies need this help with feeding.
Yeah.
So hugely appreciate what they're all doing out there. And then I would say, all the body workers who are doing work in the I mean, I have so many who have told me all these stories of how many people they've helped. And so I would say something that can like bring a little color to what you might be doing, or if you know your body worker and you're like they're doing some things like this, adding in a mindfulness component with my floor of the
Yeah.
mouth meditation is sometimes what helps people finally feel safe and let
Yes.
go. When some of these
Yes.
other jaw exercises and digging into people's jaws, sometimes that feels good. And for some people, it stresses them out. And then, actually, one of the best ways to loosen up the pterygoids, those jaw muscles, is
Yeah.
the floor of the mouth. When you release the
Okay.
floor of the mouth, it's I'll just throw out one term here. It's called a functional diaphragm. We have our belly diaphragm, and that's amazing because that does so much for us. But we have functional diaphragms, and they're all throughout the body. And there's two in the head. There's pelvic floor as a diaphragm, and it
Right.
just means it's an area that regulates flow and movement.
Yes.
And the mouth is in the oral diaphragm is one of those. So it's like when you release areas in here, then it regulates flow through the whole body, and it can make those pterygoids elastic and open up way more easily. So
Amazing.
this is just a way to like say like, if we kind of make this a little bit of a daily practice, but also say you might be doing some amazing things or getting some amazing help already, and you just add a component of this in there, and it's amazing. Oh, and yeah, some people are like, EMF, what do I do about that? Like, you didn't
Yes.
touch on that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So yes, whenever I can get somebody, sure, PEMF therapy, grounding mats are amazing, and anywhere you can get electrons, right, negative ions. So somebody, I had a dentist who was her TMJ was way offset, and I'm like, ooh, it's because of the lack of negative ions. So I ran out and got a pine cone that had freshly fallen, and it still has electrons coursing through it. She held the pine cone, and in a moment, the floor of her mouth loosened and her jaw went like this, and I didn't even adjust it yet. So that's what I'll do sometimes is when I'm like, if we're in LA and you can't really get to, I'll bring in a plant and have them put their fingers in the dirt and get some ions
Yes.
there. So
Wow.
anything that can create a transient relief of those EMF issues to where
Mhm.
people feel the nourishment of the electrons and their body's supple. And in that supple state, so much can happen. So like I said, I think we're all kind of on the same page of like, get
Yes.
all the things out there. The biohacking world is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just need to touch more plants. And sometimes I taught my kids whenever they were one, I think I said, oh yeah, I just said to all of them, I said, okay, let's go up to that tree and go ahead and, you know, touch a tree and,
Yeah.
thank the tree for its electrons and bless it with the
Right.
love of Jesus. And it was just,
Right.
they all learned
Amen.
that at like a year because it's a way to ground. You don't always have to do it through your feet. You can just, yeah.
To go touch the tree. That's so true. And it's just something so simple, right? And sometimes we
Yeah.
think biohacking has to be so expensive, but there's so, that's why, God created this incredible planet and, a way for our body to be resilient and heal itself. And I just love that you're bringing awareness to that as well. And just these little things that we can do throughout our day just to not keep ourselves in a bubble because we can't, like you said, completely take out all the EMFs and we're, this is the world that we're living in right now. But how can we just still live in this world and be a part of this world, but just better acclimate to it and live
Yeah.
through it. So thank you, Dr. Neil. You're
Yeah. You're so
incredible.
welcome. So welcome.
Oh my goodness. So we actually had a few questions come in from our members, if you don't mind asking you a few of those that came
Sure.
in. Okay. Caleb actually came in with a question. He
Oh,
said,
cool. Hi, Caleb.
yeah, with an active lifestyle, how often do you recommend seeing a chiropractor?
Okay. It's a good question. I think like, some people love like once a week check-ins to get aligned, and nervous system regulation through alignment is really amazing. And that can be really good. There's like too many answers here that I can think of, but and maybe I'll just clarify too that while I love chiropractic, I am much more a hybrid between a chiro, an osteopath, a craniosacral fascial therapist, deep tissue role for a structural integration expert, energy, lymphatic work, visceral work. So I'm not I was practicing chiropractic and I still love it, but because I add in so many layers of the floor of the mouth and all these things, when I'm typically seeing somebody, they're seeing all those people and they're getting good results, but we're talking about what can help shift them into a different state. So if we're talking about kind of what I'm doing and teaching and training, like you could need it once a week, but it's more like maybe every other week, maybe every month, we're saying some kind of check-in to keep aligned and optimize is really good so that you can keep your function up and make sure you're excelling and out of pain and finding relief, of course, too.
Yes. Okay. So that's really good because for myself, I do see a chiropractor every other week
Sure.
just to kind of maintain, but I still have a constant, just a headache all the time. So I'm not really able to ever really beat that. So
We'll change that
something,
in Boise, hopefully.
yes, I know something's off. And yes, I'm looking forward to that, Dr. Neal. Okay. So then also to kind of go along with that, is there a simple breath or posture change that we can make during the day that has the greatest impact on how we feel physically or mentally?
Yeah, I mean, I think and I want to try to answer what I know, you know, you have so many great people that could answer this in certain ways. So I'll try to answer it in a way that you probably won't hear otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, simply the floor of the mouth by doing what we did already, that will change the most amount of areas in the body and change your posture the most. Because what I didn't get to is what my airway map is. The
Yes.
airway map has 70 areas in the body that I've identified that come along with floor of mouth tension. But if you ever see like rounded shoulders forward, tight traps, tight SCMs, tight right psoas, tight hamstrings and calf muscles and all of that, hands down, most of the time it comes from floor of mouth tension, at least at
Wow.
its root.
Okay.
Meaning if you can work in here some, do what I showed you already, you will see so much change everywhere else that you will find you don't need to constantly do this. You don't constantly need to push those shoulders back. You don't need to constantly work on and stretch those psoas muscles or the left piriformis too.
Yeah.
That's a big pattern too in all of this is it's pretty specific down to what's going on. Also, the occiput C1, C2, they tend to misalign forward on the right with those of us that have floor of mouth tension. It's hard to find that sometimes, but I'll just say, add to kind of what I said earlier is like, do that. But if I added another layer of what could help even more with breath, posture, um, is that sometimes people are like, yeah, but the massage won't help, and I'm or the activation that I showed may be too much. I mean, it's too much tension. People don't feel the relief that you did. And if that happens to anybody else out there, because otherwise just keep doing what I showed you and then maybe get my course and you'll see more. But if that didn't do enough and that's not correcting enough for you, then what I would say to do is a simple body scan and just tune into your body and because intuition is one of our greatest teachers,
Mhm.
feel where do you have tension anywhere in the body and just go and touch that area gently. Maybe squeeze that area. If it's a
True.
area in your low back, move it around. Then go do that floor of mouth meditation that I showed you and tongue mapping and see if that changes it. And if not, um, this is gonna sound funny. Wiggle your right foot, flexion and extension like this, and even take your big right toe and move it around. And if anybody had tightness there and that loosened it, chances are that's gonna loosen your mouth, and then the
Wow.
mouth will loosen the body. It's really specific, but honestly, this will probably speak to at least 60% of people that are tuning in, this'll work.
Oh my goodness. That's super cool. Okay, I'm definitely gonna try that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I just love the intuition part too, Dr. Neil. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So good. Okay. Then for people who sit at a desk all day to stay aligned and energized, what would you recommend? And a lot of us do that nowadays. And it's like, what would you recommend? So we're not overcorrecting or feeling too stiff.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like some of us that have you can say that eye fatigue in these eye muscles can be a big part of this too, because some people think it's because I'm sitting at a desk that I have all this going on, and I'll say, yeah, unless you have floor mouth tension, then that's the reason. But then, yeah, to add in the layer, and then you add in ocular strain. So
Right.
one really simple technique that I use for when I'm finding this on people, and when my things that I've already shown you don't help and you have eye strain, yes, we can do the, simple exercise of looking far off and losing focus and then regaining focus. But what I often find is that sometimes that doesn't take care of the eye strain. So if we close our eyes and then we put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, do that stretch, and then compare it by opening your eyes and then doing the same stretch. And
Oh,
if you find more tension, that might be an example of eye strain. So what you can then do is close your eyes, go into that stretch again, visualize yourself opening your eyes, but don't. Imagine yourself with opening your eyes, but don't. Keep your eyes closed, but picture your eyes opening. Go back into that lingual palatal suction and see if it changes. And for some of you, it's going to change because visualization is powerful, right? So, what I would recommend doing is practice doing the floor of the mouth lingual palatal suction, maybe for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. For those of you who can hold it really long, 3 minutes with
wow.
visualizing your eyes open, but keeping them closed, because that'll titrate you to being able to open your eyes and keep the same amount of floor of mouth tension when there is eye strain. And then another component, just to make it more complicated, hopefully not too much. And then you add in the component of then you keep your eyes closed, but imagine they're open and imagine you're looking to the left and the right and up and down, but keeping your tongue in that lingual palatal suction like this. And then after you do that for a while, and you can just say, do that in one full swoop, then after that, do it again with your eyes open and moving your eyes left, right, up, down. See if you made a change. And if you just keep that up, you can handle eye strain paired with floor and mouth tension, which is the
Wow.
gateway to freeing tension in your entire body. And when you pair them, that's sometimes what really shifts this whole postural pattern that we're seeing.
That's incredible. And that's something, like you said, not many people ever really think about. Yes, they notice that they're tired and their eyes might be tired from sitting at a desk, but they always think it's just the posture.
Right.
And, that has something to do with it too, but it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then would you say anything is similar with the phone then? Like with people with their posture for
Yeah,
phone?
it's very similar. And we'll just say you add in not only is it the screen, so we need more, red light, we need more orange
Mm,
light, purple light, things like that. Lasers or sun or sunset, right? Sunrise, sunset. We need more light to mitigate what comes from the phones, but also the EMF. So, get out towards the ocean. I'm in Santa Barbara, so we can get out here to the
yes.
ocean spray and,
So good.
get in those negative ions any way you can. And, doing any of this out there, sure, that's even better. And those are answers also, but that'll definitely help.
Oh my gosh. Dr. Neil, you're so incredible. I'm so excited that we get to have you on today. And I want to be mindful of your time. And you have just been absolutely incredible. I know you said that you have your course offering that we can offer with a discount, possibly
Sure.
using a code that Ben
Yeah.
has.
That's right. Yeah, if you use Ben, BEN, and you get 30% off of my online course for the mouth, and it's all on my
Amazing.
website. Pretty easy to find, neelbulchandani.com. It's up there, and then you can get 30% off of that, 30% off of tongue press, or my floor of the mouth LA. Those dates are on there. That's out there. So
Perfect.
we'll get the other ones up on the map, and that'll be similar. People will have discounts when those come up, and I'll update. But for right now, 30% off of those offerings for y'all.
That's incredible. We'll list that all in the show notes as well. And follow Dr. Neil on his Instagram account also. And then, stay tuned for maybe a potential collaboration in Boise, Idaho that we'll do with Life
Yeah.
Network and Ben and myself. And that would be so incredible. So, Dr. Neil, I do love to wrap up the end of our podcast with one question here called the Hidden Triumph. It's a great way to just get a little bit peek behind the curtain and then something real. So, what is one small triumph that you've had recently that no one really knows about yet?
Okay. Good question. Let me because it's right on the tip of my mind. I'm gonna say something that I didn't say, which is for anybody who also some people come out and they want to do an intensive, and that's like we do 9 hours of body work over 2 days, and we
Wow,
do an hour of movement at the beach where I analyze and guide you in movement. You have the video footage, and we make a guide, and
that's
you can
cool.
just carry this through. There's zooms before and after. Tim was out here doing that, a little bit
Yeah,
ago, so it's a way to really get tremendous effect and change in an intensive format. So I have people
That's
coming
cool.
in from all over to do that. And I think, maybe hand in hand is that I used to be a bubble boy. I used to be so sick. I couldn't breathe. I had horrible asthma. I was, afraid of everything. My parents, bless their hearts, they told me I was allergic to everything. So then I believed it too. And then I, powered through that, defeated asthma, ran ultra marathons, and just can really do whatever I set my mind to. But
Wow.
that's not all the time, right? I still struggle. There's still some times where
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with certain things, and that's where triumphs come in. And that,
Yes.
I mean, this move from Northern California, 8 hours north of a drive to Santa Barbara, we didn't know, how are we going to make this happen? Are we going to make this change? And how am I going to move my practice? And
It's a
so
lot.
I was so stressed and I was overwhelmed. And,
Hmm.
I think the thing that really carried through, other than there's so many things to say, but is, trusting that you have, I have something that people need. And if I can really dig in and trust my wife and listen to her wisdom and hear what she has to say and how she sees me, both flaws and also strengths,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and use that to help me frame up like how I can be better. And I have a long way to go, but those areas recently that I've conquered of restriction have led me into a more expansive way of approaching not only the day but our family, and being able to now carry my work into Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, go to Denver, do it there, and now as I go out to these other places. So that was a kind of a broad triumph, but
That's
I just
good.
want to say it's in process, but keep trusting intuition, trusting your significant other, trusting those people that can see you really well, because that makes all the difference.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you touched on all of that too, and how you did say that you were a bubble child too. I didn't know that background too, and that's super helpful to our listeners as well, because some of them might be coming in with something like that, or we do try to shield too much, and
Yeah.
we don't think we can change, and our body is resilient, and it's incredible. So thank you so much for sharing your gift, for sharing your time, Dr. Neil. You are incredible. We're grateful for you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Carrie. It
for
was a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to Triumph Weekly. We look forward to seeing you next week in the network. Take care.